So for the last couple of months, I've been working on CHARLYBINSK North on a testing save. And over that time, the save that I've been working on it in is like 20, 22 or so videos behind the series. So I have to bring it over into the current save. And the only way to do that really is to do it manually. I asked you guys on the YouTube community tab whether or not you wanted me to build it with you and just sort of, guide you through the different things I'm doing, or if you wanted me to put the plans in place and then give you a tour of what would happen. And the results were kind of mixed, predictably, but most of you guys seem to gravitate towards wanting to build it together. I think for this video, it's better suited to do this as more of a hybrid. So here's what we're going to do. CHARLYBINSK North is getting designed today. Hi, welcome back to Workers and Resources. What we're going to do today is we're going to be kind of spending most of our time paused because I want those frame rates, because I want to focus on this, and I don't want to deal with any notifications or anything that are popping up. But the other reason that I don't care to let the time progress much is because we're going to design it. You're going to design it right along with me here. We're going to be putting things in place, and I'm going to kind of explain how I want things to work as I do it. And then maybe 3/4 of the way or so through the video, we're going to flip the switch on this, and I'm going to bring you into the save that I have that I've imported the designs over to so far. Not every building design is imported yet, because like I said, it's a manual process trying to space things out, but for the most part, everything's in place, and I want to show you what I've come up with here. So we're going to stay paused for a little bit here, but we're going to work on things as we go. So the first area we're going to start with is over here near the chemical area. Now, there's a couple of different concerns about this area, namely that it's near pollution. Chemicals are going to pollute a lot, and that pollution carries a little bit. So for this area, I've decided I want to keep the people living like more than 400 meters away from this chemical plant. I think that'll work out pretty well. Also, the wind tends to gravitate that direction, so I'm hoping that it also stays away from us there. Now, the buildings that we're going to use for housing in CHARLYBINSK North are unique. I'm just going to really quick do that just so I get some of these icons off the screen. The buildings that we're going to be using in CHARLYBINSK North are unique in that they don't have the same design as any other buildings in the game. And we're doing that by using mods. So CHARLYBINSK North is kind of a modded city, if you will. There's one exception to that, and there's a piece we're going to have to leave blank right here in the middle. And that's because the asset I want to use right here in the middle is a vanilla asset, but it's not in the current version of the game. I've been designing this in the experimental branch so that I had this hospital. There's a big hospital that's coming in the next update, and it has huge capacities for a lot of people to be served here, 24 slots for vehicles, including 2 built-in rooftop helipads. It's a really cool building. They're bringing it into the main game, and I want it in the middle of this city. So we're not going to be able to have that, but we're going to design around it anyway. And the plans I've imported have that accounted for anyway. Okay, let's start over here. The first set of housing we're going to use for this, mostly we're using a lot of like large residential buildings. Modded assets are the ones in the list with the green arrow. Those are ones that have been downloaded, if you will, from the workshop. And we're going to be using these. This is the Centipede Full SE. There's actually 2 different versions of this on the mod, on the workshop. You can find links to this stuff down below, by the way, if you like these buildings. You're probably not going to see them for like, I don't know, 15 episodes. Like, it's going to take a while for these things to build, right? And there's a lot of stuff to build. But it's a pretty cool looking structure, I think. And it kind of lifts off the ground, which I really like, because in this area, we're going to be kind of, well, the elevation's not the same. And so we kind of keep the building somewhat level by just having the lower part of this sink into the ground more, which is kind of interesting. Now, obviously, the lower part is supposed to be a walkway, so we don't need it to really sink into the ground. But while you're placing it, it kind of looks that way. All right. So what we're going to do for this, we want to keep the houses 400 meters away from chemicals. So I'm going to take the thing here. It just has to be a rough estimation of 400 meters away. So about here-ish. It doesn't have to really... If it's any closer than this on this side, then, I've gone too far. But that's about the limitations I want to have. So we're going to take the centipede here. And we're going to place this kind of right up against the road. I'm not going to worry about exact placements while I'm placing these things with you, because again, we're going to be continuing from the save where I've already imported things and have everything properly measured out. But to give you a proper, or just an approximation, basically, is what we're going to be doing today in this little part of it, the video, the beginning of the video. And I'll put timestamps down below. If you're somebody who actually just wants to get to the point, you can see that stuff down below if you want to. There's a timestamp that shows you where the import is. Okay, so we're going to go in, and I'm going to have this here, and then another one's going to be like right here, and then one more is going to be about right here. And that's as close as I want the houses to be. Okay? Then we're going to leave some space, and on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. So on the other side, we do this. We go 1, 2, 3. So about like that. Or it will be where our houses are, okay? We're going to have a road that comes down the middle. About like this-ish. Again, all of these things are approximated right now. And then it's going to continue on, but it'll probably be a gravel road at some point through this process. But at some point over here, we're going to have a cargo station for trains. And it's going to be right about here-ish. Okay. I'm not going to need that road. Well, we might use... I think I actually do use that road because there's I think it's a distribution office or something like right here that shares it. We'll take a look at the plans later. It's fine. And then on this side of this house right here, I want to have a big warehouse. I don't think it's the really big one. It might be. Yeah, I think I used the really big one and I flipped it this way. So the drive was on this side. So it's somewhere around here, I think is where it is. But it needs to be close enough to hit that train station. So it's about here, I think, is probably close to where it is. Okay. On the other side, we're going to have a store for everybody to shop at. Okay. So on this side here. And I'm trying to remember where I think it's right here. I think it's ish. Okay. Everything is ish in this, right? So right here. And then we'll have a warehouse that pops in right over here. And I know I might be moving a little bit fast. Apologize for that, but there's a lot to cover here, and I got to make sure I get it done. So we're going to say, I think it's right about here is where this building goes. Maybe right up against it. Something like this. I think that's pretty close anyway. And then the factory connections should connect here. It does in the plans. Trust me, that's connected. And then it'll connect here as well. And then that will give us a direct connection with this warehouse over here. So effectively, what we have is a place where trains can deliver. Okay. It's going to dump it into this warehouse. And this warehouse is directly connected. So the train will be connected to that too. And then it will be dropping off stuff in here as well for this store. We need meat as well. And we have a large meat storage that's going to be over here. Again, it's not it's approximate on the distance here, but it's I want to say it's right about here-ish is where this meat storage is. And the meat storage does connect to the train here. And so they're able to drop off the meat. And then we do the same thing we've done with a lot of different stores in the past where there's a truck that's dedicated going back and forth here to keep this store stocked. All right. Pretty much just like that. On this side, we have some sporting complexes and stuff. Like there's a sports dynamo over here. I want to say there's, I think, another, maybe an indoor pool or something is on this side. I forget exactly where it is or what it is, but there's something over here too that is something that these guys can use. We're going to end up having culture buildings and sports buildings all in range for these things. We have the train tracks are going to head up this way, and they're going to be about here. And I need to get this. Here we go. Something like that. They curve more. They curve cleaner in the real safe. Okay. And then we have a tunnel that's going to head underneath this road, and it just kind of connects down through this way, and it will then lead out to connect over to this rail. So we'll end up having a way for trains to get in here under the tunnel. They come in here and they drop off stuff, and then they leave. So there's enough rail here distance-wise. There's enough room here for us to have like crossings and stuff. So for the train to come in this way and leave on the proper track, that kind of thing. Okay. All right. And in this gap here, first off, the road, we want to embrace as much as possible. The traffic system in Charlybinsk North embraces as much as possible the lack of intersections. Everything flows really smoothly. And if that means you have to travel a longer distance to get there, so be it. But we really are leveraging the lack of intersection usage in this city. The only time you really need to deal with an intersection is if it's a merger, which are usually smoother than actual intersections that, conflict in their direction. Or if you are entering a roundabout, and I've limited as much as possible, you might remember, the need to enter the roundabout, which is pretty much limited to only people turning left. If you are turning any other direction, you do not need to enter the roundabout. If you're going straight, you don't need to enter it. Turning right, you don't need to enter it. And if you're turning around, you also do not need to enter the roundabout. The only time you have to enter it is if you're turning left. And the reason why it's a roundabout, of course, is because you can turn left from any direction. So there you go. I could have done something over more like this, where we go over top of things, and that would have been cool, but we can't make intersections above ground or below ground, and so we're unable to do that. And if you're new to this channel, or maybe you need a refresher, these intersections here also have tunnels that go underneath, so anyone who's going straight at these intersections can go completely under the roundabout. They do not need to enter it. Okay. In this little area here, I haven't quite decided if I want to use a bus stop or not. I'm kind of gravitating toward not. Charlybinsk North is going to have a lot of personal car usage, but the primary way people are going to be getting around here are passenger trains and the metro. And so metro is going to need built, of course. So because of that, I don't know if I really need to utilize buses. It's kind of ironic. I have a really good, high capacity for roads, and yet I'm not using buses as much. But there's going to be plenty of personal cars and stuff through here too. Okay, so, and I may add the bus stop, but if I do add a bus stop, it's going to be in a bigger area somewhere, because I can't use these. They're just not going to be big enough. The 200 worker capacity is just too small to be able to properly use them. The only way I would get away with this is if I had a lot of buses that were coming very frequently. I'm looking into it, but I think larger platforms are going to be the answer here. And unfortunately, the only way to do a large bus stop is to use these big platforms. And most of these big platforms are just, well, they're just too big to fit in areas like this. Now, this is obviously not the case, but in this gap right here, because we're going to add, I believe my current population in my testing save for this is about 18,000 workers in this area. Because we're going to add so many people, we have to make sure that we're keeping up on orphanages. Yeah, orphanages are still a big thing, unfortunately. So on the side of here, we're going to have 2 orphanages, one on this side and one on this side. And essentially, they're just here. And the people who live in these areas are going to work here. In case you're curious on the stats for this building, these buildings here, because I didn't really go through it, the Centipede has 97% quality flats, and each of them can hold 720 workers. It's a lot. We're going to need a lot of hot water brought into this area. We're going to have a lot of water usage in this area, so the utilization of chemicals is going to be very important. And that's why we're so close to the chemical area here, because we can ship the chemicals direct with trucks from here. We can bring that into, say, a water assortment. I might put the water system right here that distributes it everywhere, and that way the chemicals don't have to travel very far to do that, and there's a steady flow of workers from this side. Okay, so I'm not going to bother with the walkways that go between these buildings. It's pretty much a given that we're going to have different walkways and stuff. But the one thing we're also going to have here is there's a road, right, that comes through here, and a road that comes through here. And what I want from this, if I can get it to happen, which looks like I got to come back a little bit. What I want from this road, though, is only a one-way merge out this way. Because, again, I don't want intersections. We're only going to go out one direction. I believe it goes out about here in the plans. So you can exit from this, but you can't enter from this, okay? The reason why I don't want them to be able to enter from this is because we're also allowing an exit on this side. I think this exit's right here, actually. I think it goes right to this spot so that they can choose which road to exit out on. Yeah. And then over here, we have an entrance for this too. So we're going to have kind of comes out and then emerges over and does one of these. The idea behind doing that is because I want to limit through traffic. I don't want people choosing to go through this road to get to this side. So speed limit restrictions are going to be a thing through here. I want to say that the plans call for this patch of road here to be gravel so that they're discouraged from using it. And then this side here is also a gravel road that brings it all the way into here. So we have different gravel roads and stuff that are connected through this as well. And then the meat, you know, this comes out here because we have to be able to deliver that. So it comes out and connects there. And then we have various different connections with these different buildings and stuff over around. Okay. So I'm not going to bother with the walking paths for all the residential buildings. I'm not going to bother with the trash placement and some things like that. But I will tell you that, you know, we'll have plenty of garbage in this little gap right here and plenty of garbage collection in this little gap right here, all coming from the walking paths that lead up through this area. Okay. In addition to that, I'm also not going to add, because I'll walk this through with you guys in the tour after this little demonstration of building this. I'm not going to show you guys all the walking paths that go over the roads as well. There's a lot of walkways above ground, you know, stairs and all that kind of stuff that goes around to allow people to move between these different discrete sections. There's clearly a section here, a section here. So everything is very sectionalized in that way. So I want you guys to be able to see it kind of broadly here, and then we'll talk about it when we get to the tour. Okay, so for over in this area, right, I've been talking about how I've got this nice, cool wraparound sort of setup here. This plan has changed a lot over and over again. So like it may not even still be finalized, but I'm going to show you what I have imported and where I'm at now. And obviously we'll finalize it probably today. One key note here though, is that I'm going to be building this right here, but it won't be inhabited by anyone until this heater is moved back to here. So I'm going to be moving the heating plant from here and moving it back over in this area to keep it away from people. We will still have buses and stuff that are going to be the main source of labor for it. We already have mass transportation and stuff bringing people here, so we'll just have them go a little bit further. And then we take the coal supply, bring it up to an elevator here, and we carry it across the tracks to bring it in there instead. So still same coal supply, same delivery, all the logistics remain the same. The coal just travels a little bit further. We use a little bit more steel, and we also need longer pipes as well as a pump, which will probably just replace this with a pump here, and that way these pipes can get pumped over where they need to go, because they are going to be too long to reach CHARLYBINSK over here. They're going to be too long if I move it back here. So we're going to replace this with a pump, and then this will pump it into that pump, and then all these existing pipes can still be used. It won't be quite as effective at heating, but don't worry, we're adding more heating, so it'll be fine. It'll all work out because we're going to add more heating anyway. Okay, so this area, what we want to use for this area are some pretty tall buildings. They're not the tallest, right? Remember, the top of this palace is the highest point in the city, right? And not the inhabitable part of the building. There's probably going to be something. Actually, I'm pretty sure there is something that's going to be taller than this. But this part right here is the tallest part in the whole city. Okay, so for this area, we are using this. This is the GERC Park building. It has 432 worker capacity with 80% quality flats. This is maybe the less well-off part of town. They're not quite as dense as those over there, but those are really good. They're expensive to build, but they're very high quality. So over here, and this is, again, just a generic placement here. We'll have more finalized placement in a bit. We're going to have 1, here we go, 2, 3, and again, this is not correct placement. I'm pretty sure. Hi, autosave. Come on now. 4. We're going to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I believe 10. I believe there are 10 buildings that wrap around like this ish. Okay. We'll have the road comes around, and it kind of does this whole roundabout thing sort of like this, that leads around all the way over and connects back on this side. we also have a gap right here. So this road also gaps through these two buildings. So there will be a building on the other side of it, somewhat like this. And this leads to parking lots that are going to be in the back over here. All right. So we're going to have, I believe it's 4 of them, 4 big ones. And then there's one in the middle of a roundabout. So what we have for this road is it comes out around this way and then it wraps around. Okay. And then it ends up going back this way. So this road, this building is just a little bit further on this direction, and then this connects that way. Okay. We end up having the parking lots end up being similar-ish. Sorry, I'm going to keep repeating it just so people don't think it's the final. You'll get it right here. So there's about 4 parking lots here, and then there's a medium optimized one that's in the middle of the roundabout that faces about this way. With the idea that all of this is all one direction and it all feeds into this roundabout, we should have pretty fluid traffic here. But the other bit that's happening with this, and I need to space things out differently here. I believe these parking lots are too far over. They're actually closer to the rail, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I'm fairly certain the way these are spaced that the parking lot ends up being like right up against the rail over here instead. Like these end up being really close over here. So this roundabout actually comes around like that. It's okay though. You guys get the idea. This road ends up having, we end up having a road. Come on now. Don't do that. There we go. We end up having a road that comes around this way. Okay. That is not connected to this. So this kind of butts up against these roads here. And what we end up with, well, these 2 roads go around. What we end up with is a couple of bridges that are going to be over on this side. All right. So there's 2 bridges next to each other here, and they go over top of this to give us quick access to this area. All right. So these guys who live here will have schools, kindergartens, things like that are going to be in the middle of this area. Where is my kindergarten? Big one right here. Yep. We're going to have a kindergarten in the middle of this area, like kind of over here like this. That's where everybody will go to kindergarten. And then we also have the schools. We have 2 smaller schools instead because in my original plans and my finalized plans, the big school doesn't fit in this gap. So we're going to have 2 smaller schools that are just kind of be in here, you know, all casually just placed in here. And then somewhere in here as well is also a Red Star monument for the whole like influence of all the people who live in this area. Okay. Now I'm going to delete these buildings, but just so I can fit the rail in for now, but they're here. Okay. They're just not spaced exactly like this. We're going to have a rail that comes out about this far, and there's another one on the other side. We're expanding on the rail, and this rail expansion includes a tunnel, which I'm going to just kind of pull this back. It includes a tunnel that goes underneath, which I don't have to bother connecting. Just give me the stop it. There we go. It keeps trying to snap even though I've got F4 off. All right, so the tunnel goes underneath. They kind of hug each other and they wrap around and come into this area. Okay, so we'll take a look at that in a second. Over here on this side, we have the store that people will be shopping at. Okay, so it's over here somewhere. And then with this store, we are going to have a warehouse as well as cargo trains. So we're going to say there's a cargo train station that ends up being right about here. And it actually does have enough distance to connect with the road and connect with this. So there's actually enough distance for that in my testing save. We'll have to see how this works right here in this little, yeah. So this would be like maybe just a tad bit farther back, but we can actually connect these 2 roads. And because of that, this will then connect here, right? And so we have access to it from this side. And that's pretty important because how I have to space everything else out doesn't allow me to connect this road anywhere. So it needed to connect on this side, and it does. We're going to say that there's meat storage. And if this stuff was properly spaced out and pushed over, we'd have enough room for it. But there's meat storage over here. And then there's also a larger warehouse over here. I don't remember exactly how big it is. I want to say it's the full size one, honestly. I believe it is the full size one. But it would be over here. So I'm just going to try to get this to happen if it will work. Try that, and then we'll say right like this. Come on, just connect. Not there though. You connect here, okay? It's connected there. And then we have the forklift garage that actually comes into the middle of all of these things and connects everything up. So this area here will be managed by a forklift, and I can probably just do it like this, I suppose. That's fine. We'll just do it like this for the sake of demonstration. It's managed by a forklift. They'll pull the meat out of here. They'll pull the food and all that stuff out of here. And all this stuff is also accessible by distribution offices that will be moving it around to other various places that don't have stores like this right close by, including our tourist area, which is over there, which I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time putting different warehouses and like all these big space occupying buildings. We're going to want to put tourism stuff over there. We're going to want to put stuff that people want to use. And so our logistics engine is going to be responsible for bringing stuff into there constantly. And we have plenty of road capacity to do that. We have, I'm not going to place all of them, but throughout these gaps that we leave, there are also lots of positions where distribution offices are found. So like I'll just place one here for now. These locations are strategic in that they're close enough to the supply that they need to grab and then go. They're also convenient in that they end up being able to access roadways to leave in two different directions. So if they need to go that way, they can just get on the road and go. But if they have to go this way, they're going to have access. They have to go that way. They're going to have access to this road directly so that they don't have to come down and like take the roundabout and go all the way over and do that. We don't want them to have to do that. So all of these different locations have access to two different directions and two different roundabouts as we do it too. Okay, on this side over here, we have a sports complex, big sport hall that is going to allow people to, people who live here anyway, are going to be able to use this for all their sports needs, to just walk over here and get that done. All right, for all your sporting needs. And then for a little bit of culture, as well as because I think it looks good, we also have the Palace of Communism positioned right over here too. And these guys will be able to walk here. Again, I'm not including all the walking paths and stuff that I have in my I'm running out of time here. I'm trying to go as fast as I can to show you this stuff, but there's a lot going on in CHARLYBINSK North, and I want to fit it all into this video because I just really want it to be here. So there's lots of walking paths and stuff. You'll see that when we get to the finalized tour, the finalized version of the tour. Over here, in this area, we have a new train station. Now, I'm not saying it's new to the game, although I think it is. It's new to me, though. It's new to the game. And this is not a modded asset. This is a stock asset. It's called the Large Train Station. It has a 100-meter station length, and it has up to 2,500 worker capacity. This is the kind of train station I need in a city like this. This train station, which is positioned properly before, and I don't know if it is now. This train station has a lot of different tracks that we can use. We're going to have this track here. I believe it's the second one, the second set. Yeah. I think that's how this works. This second set comes out and around and kind of comes this way, and it tunnels under all of this. It tunnels under this, and it ends up... Come on, autosave. You're so useful, but you're annoying. Right here. So it's going to come out, and it ends up connecting here. So these two tunnels are what this is. And this allows our passenger trains to get out and get onto these tracks, and also to get in here from this side. And that's going to be really useful for bringing people into this station right here. This is a really important train station that we have not used yet. It's really good because it allows us to feed this entire area here with workers from CHARLYBINSK North if they want to work here, which frees up labor for Cernakova, so I can expand it this way because I still want to expand that city, and I don't have any labor to expand it, so I want a lot of these guys to be working over here, and I can do that by alleviating the need for them to come over here. So the train station is going to bring more people from out of town, if you will, into here. It also, in addition to it working with the waste setup, this train station is also close enough to work in the refinery. So rather than having a metro stop here or a train stop here, which is what I've been wanting to do this whole time, we don't need it because we can bring them in from that stop right over there. We are still going to have a metro stop over here, however, and that metro stop will have access to this. So we'll have plenty of workers coming in, but the metro stop is also close enough to where they can work in these buildings. So I can have more consistent and higher amounts of people working in the clothing factory. I don't really have a problem with that yet. It's pretty much fine, but I want the option in the future to be able to tear down some of these buildings and industries and replace them with more clothing capacity if I want to. For example, I want to maybe get rid of the sawmill and potentially get rid of one of our food factories and replace it with that too, because it has really good access to crops here. I could have more fabrics created here if I want to. I just want the flexibility for the future. I'm not necessarily going to do it right now, but I want that flexibility. And so there is a metro station right here. I placed it a long time ago and it just happens to be built. So it's an underground metro station right here. So when we design our metro, that's how that's going to be. Okay, so we've gone through most of the stuff on this side right now. It looks pretty good. In this area over here, we've got Concrete Haven. All right, it's not that bad. It's a lot of parking lots, but it's not that bad. We have, I believe it's one facing this way, one facing, two facing this way, and then one facing this way. I believe is how that is. And then the parking lot comes from this side. And when everything's properly spaced, we end up being able to wrap this around and go into there. So I guess if I really wanted to space it better, I could say the parking lot is kind of like this. And then it flips over like this. I'm just trying to make it match so that it'll flip around and go and do it. Yep, wraps around. But the idea here is I want it to connect, and it will do so in a more straight line in the real build. I want it to connect to this road and this road so they can get in to do the parking lot stuff. We'll restrict the speed limits and stuff so that they don't use this as a shortcut. If they want to, though, I mean, I don't really care. But there's going to be a lot of cars using it, so I prefer that they not. And then these two parking lots have their own setup for this, have their own source. And I'm pretty sure I curve it just for the sake of, like, trying to prevent conflict. Come on now. Don't do that. Don't do that to me, game. Come on. All right, F4 then. Fine. Be that way. It just does something like this, okay? It's something like there. Okay, so that's that. Now, these parking lots are not really accessible by these guys. So who's going to be using them? Well, if you want to go to the Palace of Communism, by all means, you can park here. Same thing with the sports complex. They can reach all these things, all right? Even this store is accessible by all of these parking lots in the real build. So you could also drive here and walk to the store if you want to. But most of the people who are going to be using these parking lots are going to be living on this side of town over here. We're going to rotate the camera this direction because this is kind of how I built it and I have the memory in this way. We're going to have the same centipede buildings we used before are going to be used here, at least somewhat. We're going to have one of them on this side right here and another one that's going to be over on this side over here. I'm always doing this with the autosave right around the corner, you know? So it's going to be about this spaced out. I don't know exactly what the spacing is, but we'll see. And then we're going to use the Centipede single SEs. Now, these ones are smaller versions of the full. They have 210 worker capacity. In general, their resource consumption is more expensive per person, but they have the advantage of course, being smaller and their smaller footprints. And I can put them, for example... and I like how the building is different. It's not the same on both sides. So it's got this thing that sticks out on that one side, and these do as well. It's kind of interesting that way. So I'm pretty sure I put that spot on the outside over right here. Flip it over, put it on the outside, one right here, and these are all lined up in the real build. And then this one goes over about this side. We leave enough space for walking paths so that we can have everything, you know, round and around. I'll just put it in for now. For the most part, I think there's very few exceptions to this, but there are a few. I'm using all the walking paths as the ones with street lights. I want people to be able to move around as swiftly as possible in this entire arrangement. We have walking paths that will end up going over this way and crossing the street above the road. I don't have any walking path crossing these highways. All of these high-speed highways right here there's no intersections with walking paths. They're always over top of them or underneath them, so people don't have to walk on them. So it comes up over here, and the walking path ends up being, you know, kind of over in this area. And then the rail, this rail comes out, I don't know, about this far-ish. I forget exactly what it is, but it's about this far. And then it ducks underneath this direction. And it doesn't matter what it is now. This ends up wrapping around and coming out over here. So this is destined for that. All right. So this ends up coming across, you know, like this, so to speak, somewhere around there ish. And then it ducks underneath. And we just see the tunnel connect over here. And that's how trains, passenger trains, such, can get in here and do this. On this side right here, we also have a car dealership. We can start getting cars dealt to people over on this side. And there's just enough room here in the spacing for the build. There's just enough room to where this rail can get behind it, because I want to be able to use this rail later too. Maybe trains come in from even further away, or maybe they leave and go even further away, and I want to be able to get out and go a completely different direction with this. Maybe, for example, I want this line to just go underneath, come out over here, and just be maybe underground the entire way. I don't know. I mean, it's another metro for all I care. It can come in wherever our airport has, and now we have passenger rail into the airport as well. Who knows? I don't know. I want flexibility. That's why this is there. I would prefer for this large station to only have 3 or 4 tracks, but because it's just really big, I have no idea what I want to use this one for, but I'm leaving enough room here so that I still can. All right. So I'm just kind of building for the anticipation that I might need something in the future. Okay. In the middle of these buildings, I think you can kind of anticipate what we're going to have here. Kindergartens, schools, you know, indoor pool, I believe, is over here too. There's stuff like that. And then the road on this side comes over this way. Double road, and it connects in a proper way there. And then we end up having more parking lots. So we have additional parking lots. I think there are 2 of them, one right here and one right here, I believe. There's also 2 of them on this side. And the 2 that are on this side, and again, everything's properly spaced before. Let me pull this back. We have this part of the road. These are both 2 ways. I know it looks like there's like the 4-lane highways like this, but it's not. Both of these roads are 2 ways. And so they go different directions, essentially. They go to different places. So you're going to go this way, and you're going to connect here. These 2 connect there. And then this one comes down and connects to this road, and this connects up. So this road is exclusive for these cars, and then this road is exclusive for these cars, but also enables another way. And I'm going to speed limit restrict this so that people don't really use it very often, but they can if they want to. It provides another way for us to get on the highway over here. So the right side of this road is going, you know, from left to right. This is going to wrap around and tap into that right there. That's what that's for. And then this comes straight over and connects over to this road like that. And so now from this roundabout, you can get into these parking lots, you know, without having to turn left. These guys here, you know, I guess they can round around this way and then do it, right? But they can get into these parking lots over here if they want to. Yeah, and then the walking paths and stuff connect everything up. Schools, indoor pool, etc. Like all that stuff is built in over here. We're going to have some technical service office, distribution office type stuff over here in this area, so it's not that important to talk about. Then we have the Palace right here. The Palace has a couple of parking lots positioned right here too, but I'm kind of trying to avoid having a lot of those around. I would like this to be more fun stuff. Lower, you know, no Ferris wheel, but mostly things that are fun that people can interact with can be over here by the Palace so that these guys have all that stuff that they need. Speaking of all the things that they need, we have like 8,000 people from here and here, and just in this general area right here that can access this area. We have about 8,000 people. So let's talk about this area. Oh, before we get into that though, over here on this side, I'm just remembering this road actually gets taken out. And the road does something like, I don't remember exactly where it goes, but it goes something like this and heads over that direction. And then this does the same thing. It heads over that direction as just another means for people who are over here. They can get over here. If they don't want to travel this entire thing and turn left, they can get off the roundabout here and then just go. So they turn left in a different spot, basically, and just another way to give them another route, right? But it ends up doing something like this in the plans at the moment. I don't know exactly how this intersection is going to work yet. I haven't quite figured out how to make this flow in my testing so that it doesn't get congested, because there's trains that pass by here and they stop it a lot, but there's really not a lot of room for a bridge or a tunnel between this area. So that part's a little bit to be determined, the work in progress. But over here, I do have, just to provide a little bit more security in this area, I do have a police station over here about that size. And then we do have other fun activity stuff that people can do over here. I believe there's a large football field. I believe there's like a large football playground over here. And maybe like this outdoor car. I forget what I put over here, but I put some stuff over here for these guys to have more for sports. So with having so many people over here, let's talk about this now. With having so many people over here, I'm worried about school capacities, basically. So in state infrastructure, we're going to have the large school, the really big one. I'm not entirely sure what orientation this thing was in. I forget. I want to say it's like this, but it's going to go right here. And this puts it in range of all these houses and the palace. Not these guys, but they have their own school. And not these guys, but they have their own school too. So it puts it in range of the two big areas that don't have a lot for education. And that school is going to end up being here. I don't remember exactly what order all these buildings are in, I'll be honest with you. But there's the big hospital is going to be in the middle. And it's a big place. It takes up probably the space of two of these big schools. All right. I think that's probably a realistic view of the size of this. On this side of town, we have, and this is basically all the municipal stuff. The stuff that takes care of the population is over here. So over here on this side, we have the large fire station. And it's kind of in this area-ish about here. It goes up against the hospital, okay? And the hospital doesn't need helipads connected to it around the outside. It has 2 heliports on the roof. So I don't need to take up additional real estate for that. But I still need to do that for the helicopters. So we'll do that right over here, like this. We'll have one pad right there for the helicopters. Now, I have been asked whether or not, like, why don't I add a second helicopter? Or, you know, I totally could. I could add another heliport over here, and I could do that. And I may, but remember, the fire stations have limited vehicle capacity. And that vehicle capacity is shared with helicopters. So if I add a helicopter, I have to remove a truck. And trucks are way more effective at dealing with fires than helicopters are. I can go more in depth about why that is if you'd like to. But in summary, if it's a small fire, helicopter's fine. If it's a large fire, helicopter will never be able to put it out by itself. Unless you have several helicopters that are called to the scene. And they don't always get called to the scene. Trucks always get called to the scene. Okay. So we've got that. There's going to be random parking lots positioned through here too, so people can also drive to these various different jobs. So I believe I had one like over here. I have secret police, I think, is located right here on this side, I think. It's about in this area-ish. I don't know. And then over here on this side, we have another another police department is over on this side over here somewhere. Follow that up with another parking lot on this side so that people can drive over to these different jobs. And then we have, I think, City Hall is what I put over on across this. I'm just trying to figure out where that is. I don't use that building very often. Here we go. Now I might choose to use one of these. This is crazy. What is this? This is just visitors. Is this like a tourism building? It looks like it's a modded asset, but I don't remember what it is. I'm gonna have to look at this up. But it's not that, but it's just over here in this section, which makes it a little bit weird. Not sure. Anyway, I'm pretty sure the City Hall / accounting office is over here somewhere like this. And then we have 2 additional parking lots over here on this side. So it's like 1, 2. And then finally, again, things are not spaced out exactly as they should be, but just for the sake of trying to make this a little easier to show, we'll just reposition them really quick. This road, as you'll see when we load the full thing, this road here goes from this point down to the hospital, which is like starting about here, I think. No, well, everything's shifted, so don't worry about the spacing. We'll bring it around, and it comes out like this, and then it wraps around like this. And it's like its own internal industrial park kind of thing, where all the vehicles have their own roads to get where they want to go, and it all wraps around and ends up being, you know, stylized about like this. Okay. And then I think from that point, the parking lot is probably right up against the road over here then. Okay, so wherever the hospital ends up being for its roadway, that's where this starts. Okay, and I want to say it's actually shifted over a little bit more. Right in here, we have a metro station. The underground one without entrance is over here. And I use this one a lot because it has an 800 worker capacity. Originally, my plans were for this one because I like how it has like this actual building. I can see where it is. I can see people rushing into it and stuff. But the problem with it is it takes up real estate. But also, even though it's an above ground building, for some reason, it has a lower capacity, 600, instead of just this one with 800. And this one takes up almost no surface space because all of it is underground. I'm going to leverage underground. So the metro station ends up being about like this. Okay? It ends up being about there. And so how the path of the metro is going to work, and it's not finalized, but tentatively, the path of the metro has people coming off of this one. It goes in here. It will get off somewhere over here so that they can work in chemicals. It then swings over here and adds in this area. Then it's going to come over here, tag up over here somewhere so these guys can get out if they want to. I haven't decided if that's happening, but so far, and maybe it'll be back here or something. And then it comes over and it will drop people off at this station that's in here. Then it will come down into CHARLYBINSK at somewhere. I haven't decided yet. And then it comes back over and tags up over here again. And that's one of our metros. All right. There's also going to be a crossing because I want the metro also to go to the airport. And so at some point, I don't know where, but at some point I need this metro line to be above ground. I want to say I'm going to use this area here to do that. I want to bring it above ground so that I can create a junction, because you can't do that underground. So I need to bring it above ground, create the junction, and then bring it back below ground. This is also a great place to create our end stations for it. It can be over here too. And that is going to enable me to have like a repair, you know, for repairing the trains. It's going to enable me to actually access the metro, because at some point in the metro line, you have to have it be at ground level. Otherwise, your track builders can't get there. Right? So at some point, you have to have that anyway. And I think that's going to be over here because it's right next to the regular rail. And I think it can work okay. The only downside is I'm going to have to tear out this walking path because I'm going to need this rail to come over. But I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. It's a junction that's close to this one, but it's not going to be used very often because the only reason to ever access it is to build the rail. So once the metro is done, we don't need any track builders to come off of this. There's really no reason to do that. I guess also to bring metro trains into it is another thing, but it's fine. So that's going to be the general layout of how the metro is going to work. And then at this junction point, it would then split off and go this way, which would enable it to get to the airport. And then it can come back from there, get above ground, turn, and you're right back on the track again. And then you're underneath and you're able to do things. Okay, so that is very, very rough plans of what this area is going to look like and a brief explanation as to why things are positioned where they are. Let's show you what the actual build looks like so far. Okay, so here it is. This is the layout that I just walked you through with pretty much everything that I walked you through in place. Okay, just a real quick recap, I guess, because all the stuff is kind of a little bit more complete now. Here's all our 3 houses right here. We've got our 2 orphanages right here with all the roads that kind of connect to them. we have this nifty little merger off-ramp sort of system here so that there's no intersections on this, which is pretty great. The road comes in through here, just like I talked about earlier. And then we have the train cargo station here with the connections to meet, as well as this technical service office is what it was. There's the distribution office is located right here. Train track comes in through here and will leads to a tunnel that will eventually be designed over this side. Right now it just goes under there, but it'll go over here and meet up with this track on that side. Big warehouses, stores, sports dynamo, and then the indoor pool over on that side. We also have another prison going in over here. I totally missed that before when I was walking you through it. We have another prison going in over here. And just because I don't want my prisons to fill up, right? With a consistent source of labor from this area, we shouldn't have any problems. And yeah, that's it. There's a prison over there. Here's that housing complex. I love this area, and I'm just like, I really wanted to have this area, so I will be moving that again back over here so that I can have it. But all the houses are in place right here, all spaced out. All the roads have the streets, the walkways and stuff, so people can move around a little bit easier. We've got the 2 schools in this area, plus the kindergarten there. There's a couple of different Soviet emblems and stuff, Red Star, etc., that are in there to help with that. We've got lots of parking lots over on this side, okay, for various different, lots of personal car usage, right? And then we also have, from this, they're going to have to come out here. I suspect that I will have to redo a little bit about how this is, just because there's going to be a lot of cars going through here. But this is a one-way street, so we shouldn't have too many traffic issues. We also have the roads connected to these big buildings, not just the walking paths. And I think because of the modded assets, because they are modded assets, I want their roads connected if there is a road connection for them, just because of fire and all that kind of stuff. A lot of times these modded assets just require that, so I'm just going to go ahead and just do it anyway. We have a little football field right here, and then on this side there was the football. This is the big football field right here, and then the police station is right there. This road comes out over there. Yep. What else didn't I show you? Right here. Okay, so the hospital occupies this much space, give or take. There's a little bit of leeway here just because I want to make sure there's enough space for it, but in the experimental build I have, I know it takes up this much space. So we have that. And I could, by the way, I could just take my experimental save and just play it in the public version, right? I know I'm going to get that comment. I could do that. The issue, though, is this building would just get deleted, which is fine. That's kind of what would happen anyway. But the other thing that would happen is that because I was designing this a long time ago and I've been building it over time, my save was like 20 episodes behind, right? I needed to do this anyway. So there you go. Parking lot's right there, and then underneath there's our metro, and the metro station would then come off this way and go that direction, like I said before. I may put some kind of metro station over on this side just so these guys can walk to it if they want to, and it could be connected actually right over here because this tunnel for the rail, right, into this train station, it comes down over here, comes around, and comes in on these sides here. So that's how that connects in that direction. If these passengers wanted to go that way, I'd have to come up with a different solution for that. So it may be this track, right? Who knows? I don't know if we'll ever have passengers that go that direction. So we'll see. Because Zernovsky really doesn't need... okay, maybe it does need a metro. We could put a metro station over here that might alleviate some traffic problems over there. I'm just saying. So maybe we'll do that in the future. And if we do, then these 2 tracks here could engage with Zernovsky. That's fine. The train tracks go that way. Here's our car dealer. I don't know what I'm going to do with this space. I was originally thinking maybe there might be a way to get a train in here and drop off some cars directly into this dealership. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And quite honestly, I don't think it's necessary. I'm okay with a slow rollout of personal cars. I'm all right with that. It doesn't change how many cars will be on the road eventually. It just changes how fast they get there by doing it like one at a time or so. So it's fine. There's not enough space for it because the only station I could use, I guess, in that situation is a really tiny ass station. I think the only station I'd be able to use to do this right now would be this 54 meter one, right? Yeah. I'd have to go like this, and there's just nowhere for this to go. There's no way to connect this. There's no way to get it underground in time. The tunnel has to be here in order to even, get under this little there's already a tunnel here, right, for the cars. So it's got to start here to get down low enough, fast enough to get underneath it. And the further this way I go, the deeper I have to be because the tunnel's on its way down. So it's just not going to work. I do have, however, 3 tunnels here. You see right here in the plans anyway. And that's just to make sure there's enough room to build it with the walking paths. So you can see that the walking paths, the stairs right here, and this right here needs to go all the way over there like that. This all crosses the highway with these above ground walking paths like this. They're a little hard to see, but they're here too, the yellow plans. So there's a lot of them. They're not all white, so they're a little bit harder to see, but they're all there. And yeah, they're everything's in place. It is a city hall there. Good. We have gas stations, right? Gas stations are positioned around through here too. Totally didn't cover that. So this one's all, that one way pass through really quick and leave kind of gas station. Some of them are not that way. Some of them are going to be gas stations that you have to pull in and pull out the same way. But the one-way ones are pretty fluid, so I'll try to use those when I can. There's a little fire station over here, just in case these guys, catch on fire. We're going to have a little fire station there. I'm debating on having another one probably over on this side of the highway. I'd like to get full services on both sides of this major highway just so we don't have to have long distances. But the police station here, combined with the police station here, should be able to cover every crime that gets committed in this area, I think, pretty well. But we will have police, fire, hospital, etc. We will have all that stuff over on this side too. It's just this is the touristy area, and I haven't imported it over yet. So it's still a mystery. I think we should probably start on this stuff first before we get working on the touristy stuff, because yes, tourism is a lot of money. It is, but so is everything else I'm doing. It's not that big of a deal. I don't care. We'll get to tourism when we get to tourism, and I'll probably get to tourism when I do planes and stuff, which is the next major industry we're going to look at right after ships. We're going to do ships first before we do that. Which, speaking of which, ships. Yes, our own boats right here. I like to be able to do this first because it takes less new infrastructure to do ships than it would to do something like, say, trains. Because trains, I would have to ship all the steel, all the electrical components. This entire setup is built around the premise of having all this stuff built here, but also being able to funnel it all directly into this building, right? And I'd need a whole nother setup to funnel it into someplace to make trains. So I think trains will probably be made over here on this side of the river at some point. And wherever we end up doing more steel, which I'm pretty sure we could do more steel over here too. So this could be another steel arrangement, which is great because there's a port right here, or a possible port right here. Feed the aluminum into there too, which is fine. But yeah, we're not going to do trains over here. There's just not enough room, and like all the resources are being funneled into the cars anyway. And then eventually I'm going to be making bigger stuff. I can make my own trucks, fuel trucks, my own, big covered hulls, whatever. And then we won't even need to buy cars anymore. I'll just have the licenses and produce all these vehicles and then reassign them, to distribution offices and stuff myself. And we won't even need to buy the trucks and new stuff anymore. So that's what that stuff is for. So there you go. I hope this episode finds you well. I know we spent pretty much the entire time paused, but I mean, every time I unpause it, my frame rates drop to like 10. It's not great. It's not great, man. I love this. Developer's great. The fact that they made their own engine for this is just incredible. I just wish it utilized my CPU better. I really wish it did. But yeah, that's the build for Charlybinsk North so far. There are some things over here that are not finalized in this area. That people will live here, by the way. So there's gonna be more people over here. I think this area was supposed to be left open, and I was gonna do something stylized with it. I think I was gonna like put fencing here and put a lookout tower, I think is what it was here, just to kind of like overlook this. It has no practical reason in reality. Like there's no reason why I need this, but I was going to do something like, is it right here? Oh, I don't remember where it is. It's in here somewhere. Tourism, I think, is where it is. The site tower. Yeah. I was gonna do something like this, but I think it's probably overkill and not necessary. Plus, the visitor score on it is really low. But yeah, we're gonna have to have really great visitor scores for tourism, and we're not really gonna get that over here. As far as lookout towers go, we're not really gonna get that on this water. But lookout towers are gonna be up on top of this. This is where you get a better score when you're really high up. You can get a much better score with stuff like this. So you can see here it's 4.1 instead. So it's like twice the score, right? And then we just use helicopters to bring people up here, right? I had somebody say I should use the, cable cars. This is the definition of the use for cable cars is great this way, like a ski hill kind of thing. The issue is I don't know where the cable cars are going to come from. I mean, I can't do this from Magnitograd. There's too much stuff in the way. And like over here, sure, but that's pretty expensive to bring people up there, but I could. The thing is though, the tourists are all over here. So like they might take the trains and stuff and go to other places, but they're kind of all over here. So the site tower could be over here. It's not that much different, I guess, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. We could have a pretty decent site over here too. I guess 3.5. So maybe cable cars this way from touristy areas. That's probably acceptable. But I think bringing them in with helicopters is going to be a bit more viable, especially since we're making plenty of fuel. So anyway, that's it for me today. CHARLYBINSK North, the plans are in place so far. Now, the big thing here, though, is I can go ahead and queue up everything to be built. I can queue up all this stuff and have all these icons just here, right? But I don't want any of it to start getting built yet unless it's something that doesn't require maintenance. You're also going to notice that I didn't bring in any utilities yet. There's no power, no water, no sewage. And that's because I want to have all my buildings positioned before I do those things. So even in my plans, when I was laying out how I want everything to be in my experimental build, I didn't have any water pipes. I didn't have any electrical lines, right? I've got the infrastructure in place. The water setup is right here to clean the water and everything. And the sewage cleaning, I think I'm putting that here. I don't think I've fully decided that, but I think I'm putting it here, or I was putting it here in one of these two spots. I actually think it was here because this is the discharges right here. I think I put that here. There was a big one. Most of it though, a lot of this stuff, I don't think one can handle it, which is why I'm having another one. But a lot of the sewage is going to come this way and use this one instead, because this one's not even remotely close to its capacity. But I think I have a second one planned for this side because I don't think this thing can handle what is the equivalent of like 45,000 people ish. I don't think it can handle the sewage of 40,000 people. I might be wrong. Maybe the big one can handle that, but I just want to have a space reserved for the possibility of having another one at some point. So between this video and the next video, I'm going to let things run so that we can finish the tunnels in Zernovsky. I want to be able to see what's going on there and whether or not they actually work and they're fixed or not. So we still have quite a bit of... this is the brand new tunnel that I just put in recently, so that's not even remotely close. But this one here, right? I want to get the work days done with this. I want to get these roads finished. I want to see if the traffic is fixed in Zernovsky. And assuming that it's good to go at this point, I can shift my crew's attentions to the roads, the extra roads that are through here. With a few exceptions, I think I'm going to mostly make this dirt, for example, so I can make sure that the hospital can go in here. So this would be like this, and I would just make this a dirt road instead, just to make sure I'm flexible there. Anywhere where it's not like a finalized road will be dirt. The same thing with walkways. But mostly I'm just going to have them build all the roads and the walking paths first. Then once I got all the plans in place, I'll position the substations and the water pumps and the wells and all that stuff. And then I'll get the pipes and the lines started too, so that we get everything that doesn't need maintenance built first and out of the way and taken care of. And then we choose a section, basically, because every section has its own sort of self-sufficiency. This area here, for example, it's got its own culture. Actually, it doesn't have culture. I don't think I have culture in range of this, but it's probably okay because they can drive to where their culture is, and I think I will have a bus. I might move these orphanages closer to the walking path here. I might move this up a little bit. And then this little area here, I'll tear out these walking paths a little bit and kind of redo them and maybe put a bus stop right here. Just as part of the same road. This is going to be a very low traffic road anyway, so it shouldn't matter. It's an idea. I'm rambling. I've taken up enough of your time today. Thank you for watching. I hope you're as excited as I am about this giant area being built with these big tall buildings. Not these ones specifically, but these ones here are pretty tall. I think that'll look cool. And then these ones here, I could have used a taller one. I do have, by the way, it's on and on the video goes, right? I do have a taller building. I just chose not to use it yet. I'm going to use this in the touristy area instead. And that is the Rand building. It has a 500 worker capacity at 90%. And it's pretty damn tall. And I didn't want this tall building to be close to the palace. So I've opted not to use it yet. I plan to use it over here in this area for workers to exist over in this area where the tourism stuff is. So we're going to have this kind of be off in the distance over here. And it's lower, right? The elevation of this is higher than this is. So this helps the building actually appear a little bit shorter relative to the palace because the palace is up on a hill. So I'll probably have like a couple of these buildings here and here. And that will basically be where the workforce for the tourism area resides. Of course, they can drive anywhere they want. But okay, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.